Hey everybody, good morning. Happy Monday to you, or afternoon or night, whenever you're watching this. My name is Minda Hartz and I am your host of Secure the Seat Live. So happy that you could be here with us today because listen, you could be anywhere on the internet, and in some states you can be outside in these streets right now and you're here with us. So I am very thankful that you take your Mondays, or when you watch the replay, and you make time for us. So how was your weekend? Go ahead and drop that in the chat for those who are watching us primarily on LinkedIn, but also on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. And if you're watching from somewhere else, hello to you too. But I had such a great weekend, and I'm so excited to talk about what we're going to talk about today because it's so important. Using inclusive language. I know that some of us are learning. We should be on a path to always learning, right? To get better and better and better. It was funny. I was talking with someone over the weekend, and they're a little bit older, and they were saying, "Oh, I'm getting so confused with, pronouns and this and what I should call people at work. I'm just too old for this." And I pushed back on them, and I said, "No, you are not. This is a mindset, and this is a mindset. And just like you learned how to get on the internet, just like you learn to do other things, you can also do this too, but you have to be intentional. And when you make a mistake, own it and try to do better next time." But we're going to talk about all those things because I am not the expert. I just sometimes make a mistake and I do better next time. I don't know if we have any of those folks in the audience with us, but today we're talking about inclusive language. Before we get going though, I want to remind you all that my next book, Right Within, is available on pre-order. It comes out October 5th. I feel like when I first started talking to you all about this, that it was so far away, and now we're so close. So if you are interested in being a part of the squad to get it out, make sure that you go to my website, mindaharts.com. Make sure that you're signed up for the newsletter because I'll be sending out some exclusive stuff there, and I want you to be a part of it. Also, if you haven't read my newest newsletter on LinkedIn that I put out last week, there are 3 ways that you could also help with the promotion. So success is not a solo sport, and I can't do it without you. Lastly, for those who know anyone who identifies as a woman of color and they are into UX design or software engineers, we have some opportunities there. So we'll drop the link there. So make sure that you share. Sharing is caring. So we got all that out the way. Make sure you ping somebody and bring them into the conversation and connect with each other inside the chat. I'm excited again because I had the pleasure of sharing some real stages with Dr. Tiffany Jana in our past lives before the pandemic. And I was just in awe of how they show up in the world, how they speak their truth. And when I was thinking about this conversation, there's no other person that I could have it with. And once you hear Dr. Jana, you'll know why I am a stan. But without further ado, we will bring them to the stage. Dr. Jana, how are you?
I'm wonderful, Minda. So good to see you.
So good to see you. I remember the first time that we were on one of the stages together in one of the many places, and I was just like, oh my God, I would just like, sign me up for everything. Let me buy all the books, whatever.
The feeling is so mutual. When I saw that Right Within was on pre-order, I was like, yes, I want all the books from you. Please write all the books, Minda. You're brilliant.
Well, I have a lot of book writing to do to catch up with you. But for those who don't know about your work, I mean, you're a speaker, an entrepreneur, a founder, a board member, you identified a lot of intersections. But for those who may not be familiar with your work, please tell everybody a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I identify as an awareness artist and a pleasure activist. So I am creating liberation through joy. And that's something that I borrow from Adrienne Marie Brown, another woman of color, another one of my favorite authors. But my consulting firm is TMI Consulting, and I help organizations and institutions really calibrate their diversity, equity, and inclusion in a metrics-based way. So it's not abstract and just feelings, but grounded in behaviors and processes and systems and procedures that we can quantify and we can improve. And then, of course, I've authored several books on diversity and inclusion, also some bestsellers and award winners. So really proud to be able to make a meaningful contribution in the world. And as of, the racial uprisings of 2020, people have really been paying attention in a big way. So it's really exciting to see how seriously the work is being taken at this juncture.
Absolutely. And we're going to drop your links inside of the chat so people know where to find you. We dropped the link tree. So all the things there that Dr. Jana is doing, you can make sure that you subscribe and follow and hire and all the things. But today we're talking about inclusive language. And I just want to jump right in. And again, if you all have questions, make sure that you drop them in the chat. We'll get to as many as we can today. But why is it important that we even use inclusive language in the workplace? I know it's a buzzword, inclusivity, all those things, but why is that in real life important?
Well, I operate towards a greater future than the present that we're living in. Right now, we spend actually an inordinate amount of time marginalizing people. Like my last diversity related book was Subtle Acts of Exclusion: How to Understand, Identify, and Stop Microaggressions. And microaggressions in the workplace are exactly that. It's the use of exclusive language and behavior that pushes people to the margins. Look, like, people are just trying to go to work, get paid, make a meaningful contribution, and go on about their lives. And if you can't even feel safe and valued and welcome in your workplace, while you're like, what, we spend more time at work than pretty much anywhere else, then that can be extremely limiting, and it can cause you to become sick or sicker, and can really wreak havoc on your mental health, on any underlying conditions, existing disabilities, etc. So it's important that we make people feel welcome, that we use inclusive language, because in a workplace context, we're supposed to be giving the best that we can in service of a goal that's greater than ourselves. Like you said, success is not a solo sport. In order for businesses and companies and institutions and heck, societies to be successful, people need to show up as their full selves and feel safe doing that. When we use exclusive language, we force people into tiny boxes, we cause people to shrink, and we cause people to cover the identities that are causing other folks to marginalize them, which creates a situation where people can expend up to 80% of their energy trying to pretend to be something that they're not, or hide who they are. And if you're spending 80% of your energy doing that, then how are you producing good work?
Listen, we spend so much time at work. You should be able to bring the pieces of yourself that you need to be who you need to be in the workplace. And I know that not all workplaces are safe. So I'm so glad that you let us know how much energy. And if you're a woman of color, Black or brown, you're one of few, you already know how much energy that already takes not to be able to show up because of other people's closed-mindedness.
And in this day and age, like post George Floyd's lynching, if the emotional tax has just gone, the interest rate on the emotional tax has gone through the roof, because now I'm expected to not just show up at work, but somehow my race and my identity has become part of the work, and I'm expected to either represent all the brown people or speak on behalf of and help the organization solve problems. I do equity work for a living. So justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, Jedi, I'm a Jedi worker. It's one thing for me to do that. It's a whole nother thing for somebody who's, just trying to be an accountant to suddenly have to be the Black person, the resident expert on all things diversity. It's exhausting and unfair.
That part, exhausting and unfair, and we're not getting paid for that part of the work. So that's probably another conversation. But while we're here, I mentioned at the top of the hour that I was talking with an older relative earlier over the weekend, and they were kind of in their bag about having to call people, the genders that they want to be called, and all of these things. And I'm trying to have an empathetic conversation with them to kind of bring them back into the fold, to not make this about them, but to make it about making the workplace safer. And so can you please explain, and I'm sure there's many out there who feel the same way they do, so we're here to have the hard conversations for some. Can you please explain the harm that some managers and colleagues inflict on their other colleagues when they don't use preferred pronouns?
Absolutely. So what it does is it communicates from a leader or from a colleague that you really just don't matter, right? It's the same thing with mispronouncing people's names. I don't care how hard the name is, you've got to learn how to say the darn thing, because when you call me outside of my name and you call me outside of my gender, you're saying unequivocally that I'm just not that important. Because I misgender myself on a regular basis, right? I identify as they, her. My preferred really are they, them, but I'm strongly identified with Black Girl Magic and the Queen and the Goddess, and it's all good. But I refer to myself as she, as her from time to time. And I'm like, if I can slip, I know other people can slip. So there's some grace required. But the important thing is that we're trying. The important thing is to make the effort, right? So as a whole inclusion specialist, I tell people I mess up all the time. I mess up pretty much every single day. But the difference is stopping and saying, I'm sorry, they, I'm sorry, she, whatever it is that you want to be called. Acknowledging that you made the mistake and then moving forward in the best way possible is the way to go. When you don't use people's pronouns, what you're saying is, I refuse to take a moment to get used to the taste of inclusion in my mouth and treat you the way you want to be treated. My ease, my comfort, going along as I have always done is far more important than what's going to make you feel comfortable and by extension safe. That's the piece that we're missing. So many of us identify as good people trying to do the right thing, but when you don't call someone inside their proper pronouns, you're making them feel unsafe. Like maybe you're rejecting them and you're judging them for being who they are. Those are the kinds of moves that cause top talent to walk out the door and go to another company.
Listen, taste that inclusion in your mouth. Good. When you get it, because you want people to do it for you. Okay, so get with it. Okay, we have to, because don't we want to make the workplace better than we found it? And if we, that's what we say we want, right? And so that requires each of us. This isn't reserved for Black and white folks, right? This is for everybody. Okay, so appreciate that. I want to take a question. There's a few questions coming in from the chat, and I see one here. They say, Dr. Jana, what if it's long, so let me paraphrase this a bit, but so I guess what they're asking is, should we force people in the workplace to put their pronouns in their email signatures? So essentially, or is that causing people harm? So that's a great question.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
No, force is unnecessary, right? Because when you force, then you might be inadvertently forcing people to come out when they're not ready, right? I didn't always identify as they, them. I identified as she, her until I realized I had a choice. So forcing people to do that might pull people out of the closet in an environment that you probably know darn well is not actually safe for people who are coming out of various closets, right? So we don't force, we invite. Okay, with all things inclusion, you want to extend an invitation, because what you can normalize it. You can say that you don't have to, but it is, it's our preference, and we would like to do this for anybody who's comfortable identifying their pronouns. Please do. Once that becomes normalized, then the invitation to anyone who identifies with alternate pronouns is going to feel a little bit safer because that has been normalized, right? So force no, invite yes.
I love that there is a difference, right? Because even, I identify as she, her, hers, but, sometimes when I'm doing a speaking engagement or something like that, I'll be on with other speakers. And I know that the nice thing to do is, like, people say, well, put your pronouns in your name. And I often think, well, maybe some people don't feel comfortable doing that, right? So like you said, invite people, hey, if you feel comfortable, do this, right? But we're not forcing anyone. And I love that you talked about that.
And there's an education piece. If you're going to normalize that in an environment, it's useful to have some kind of educational piece that lets cisgendered heterosexual people know that when you, as a cisgendered person, state your pronouns in various places associated with your name and your business tag, you're creating safety for the people who aren't cisgender, right? So a lot of cis people don't understand, like, why should I? People look at me and they know what my gender is. Well, that's not how we should be determining gender. So explaining to people how that works can help smooth that transition.
I love that. And I see the chat on all the platforms blowing up saying, yes, don't force, invite. So that's really resonating with folks. I love that so much. Since we're talking about inviting and not forcing, the other question I have for you is, when someone does make a mistake, right, and they misgender or call someone the wrong preferred name, however someone might identify, instead of getting defensive, which I know a lot of people, that's their go-to button, right? How should people handle those situations? I know you touched on it a little bit, but I think our group would definitely benefit from hearing it from you.
So it is one of those moments where we actually drop into the amygdala because the fight or flight kicks in. So you've got to be prepared for that moment. So like I said, if I'm a whole diversity expert, according to some people, right? I'm still learning. And I mess up on a regular basis, then give yourself the grace to recognize that you're going to mess up. Just get over that. It's going to happen. Now, what do you do in response? What you do is don't make it about you. When you drop into your amygdala, when you're in that primal brain and you're going, oh my God, I screwed up. Oh my God, I'm so exclusive. They're going to think I'm a racist, a sexist. Don't do that. Get that narrative out of your head and focus on the other person. First, just apologize. Second, make the correction. Third, keep it moving. The mistake that people make is they're like, oh my God, Dr. Jana, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I know really, I know your pronouns. I should have got it. Don't do that, because what you then do is you embarrass yourself, but you also now embarrass the person because you're making this big to-do out of something that, yes, it's a big deal, but it's not the mistake that it's a big deal. It's the use of the correct pronouns. So apologize, use the correct ones, do better next time, keep it moving. Don't make the focus on you, because as the marginalized person, as the underestimated person, you're making me have to rescue you. I don't want to rescue you. I'm trying to rescue my own self in this lifeboat.
That is funny. I'm thinking of myself, right? On the times where I've made some mistakes, and you're like in a pool and you're just like drowning and you're like, help me. But you're like, no, I can help myself, right?
And you can say, I'm sorry, I will do better next time, and just keep it moving.
Yes. That's such great advice. I love that so much. One last question that I want to take from the audience, at least for right now. We may have time to come back to some others, but someone says, what if they've been going by one preferred and now they want to, again, I'm paraphrasing, they want to be identified in a different way. What advice would you give on how to bring that to the office or bring their authentic self to the workplace?
I mean, is anyone not sacred? Is anyone not deserving of respect? Is there anyone who we should just not allow to be seen? Right? In my worldview, and I'm reading and listening to and having respect for all of the various worldviews, houses of faith, etc., philosophies, and according to just about everyone, people deserve kindness, love, respect, and acceptance. So it's a journey. Life is a journey. Find me one person who has not changed their mind about something, who has not gone through some kind of transformation and come out the other side a whole person. Once upon a time, I had 26 years of beautiful brown dreadlocks. I got all kind of green curly hair now. I'm a whole different person. I came out blue and green. Okay. So allow that person the grace to have their transformation, accept them where they are, and go along for the ride. And here's the thing, they will understand that if they identified as a different gender, that if they had a different name, that if they're changing things, they'll understand that it is hard to track with that. But what they will see and appreciate so deeply is your effort. So you don't have to get it perfect tomorrow because I announced it today. All I want you to do is try. Just try.
That's a tambourine moment. Like you said, we all deserve to be seen, right? I don't have to understand why you made the decisions to identify or show up this way, but I see you, right? I see you, I respect you, you are loved. And I think that's where I find people get so like weird. It's like, dude, it's like, bro, it's like, sis, it's like, do people not deserve to have empathy, have love, have respect, right? It's not you don't get to decide what someone else wants to be called. If that's the name they've asked you, respect them and call them what they, even when someone calls me on the phone and they'll see Yasminda, my full name, and I'll wait, and they'll be like, oh, I'm not sure how to say it. And, is it this? And, I always give the A for effort, Dr. Jana. Like if you gave it the good college try, like I'm good with it, right? It might come out Yasminda, it might come out all kinds of things, but you tried, right? You tried.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I think anybody who's just like, well, I don't want to learn your name and no pronoun. Then you probably need to work for yourself by yourself. If you can't see your way fit to have a little bit of grace and try to receive people the way that they want to be received.
Yeah,
Yes, it requires effort, but I think it's worth it to be in relationship with humans.
absolutely, absolutely. And I think, and if you're bothered so much by that, then you need to go in your prayer closet. You need to go in your own secret space and figure out what's really real and what's going on with you. If you can't see somebody with humanity, right? We don't have to be ugly and rude to people. We can be kind. So thank you for giving us that. This is rooted in kindness, right? And I love that so much. Oh, I love this so much. I know the chat is blowing up too, and they love it as well. It's that time in our show where we go into our bonus round. I could have this conversation with you all day long, but we all have things we still have to do today. And so now I have to ask, because I'm a lover of grits and rap lyrics, but are you a grits eater, Dr. Jana?
Okay, I was born in El Paso, Texas. I do like some grits. If they have shrimp in them, I can tolerate a savory grit, but I definitely prefer them sweet.
Oh no, we a majority of us are salt only, but I'm just gonna pretend I stopped hearing what you said after shrimp.
I know.
Shrimp and grits, we're fine there.
But now I really eat mostly plant-based now, so it's kind of a thing of the past.
Okay, when you were eating grits,
does polenta count? Does polenta count?
Adjacent. It's adjacent. It's adjacent. We'll give you that. We'll give you that. And I know that when we were talking before the show, that you mostly said you listen to like meditation and sounds, and so you have passed the mic to me so that I get to give, and I don't often get to do this. I get to give my favorite rap lyric. So I would love for everybody in the chat, if you've been here before, then I ask guests to give their favorite rap lyric and why. So if you have one, drop it in the chat. But for this week, I'm actually going to go with Nicki Minaj. It's Seeing Green. There's a line she says, "I am the star in any room that I stand in. I am the standout. You're just my stand-in." And I like that lyric because imposter syndrome can't go where we're headed, right? When I walk in the room, I walk in the room because I belong in the rooms that I'm in. When you walk in the room, they need what you have in that room, right? So, anybody questioning why I'm in a room or whatever, listen, I deserve to be here. I am the star in this room. It's not in an ego way, but I belong in every room, but maybe not every room deserves to have me, right? But I own that. And I hope that you will do that too, however you identify, however you see yourself.
Minda, I want to say my version of that is that I am the medicine. You are the medicine, right? When it doesn't have to be egotistical when you recognize that you were put on this earth at this time to walk into these spaces and be the healing and model the strength. You are the medicine. If you don't show up as fully who you are, you're only giving us a partial prescription, and we need all of you in order to become the best of us.
That part, mic drop. See, we did it in partnership, in tandem today, so I love it. And I see some of you dropping some Jay-Z in the chat, and we love to see it. My other question to you, Dr. Jana, is we are all leaders. We all have the capacity to lead. We don't need somebody in the C-suite to give us permission. Like, we can activate that right now. What's one tip you would leave our audience on how to make the workplace better than they found it?
So the biggest, if everything gets condensed, all the work that I've done gets condensed down to one thing, it's that we cease to recognize each other's humanity when we get to work. Like, we have so much grace for our sister, our cousin, our family, our close friends, but we get to work and we're like, I ain't got time for these people. Like, you're in a different tier, a different level that somehow is deserving of less respect. We've got to pull that back. We've got to dial that back and recognize that as humans, we are a symbiotic system, and how one of us is doing will affect all the rest of us. And so reconnecting with the sanctity of the human experience and understanding that every single person, no matter how obnoxious some of them are, like, every single person is deserving of love, kindness, light, and respect. And the more of us that are able to tap into that and send that loving kindness, even across a hateful divide, the better off we will all be. So we can lead by having grace and compassion for ourselves, standing in our truth, and then spreading that kind of energy across the organization.
Ooh, that's so good. And I love that you also said give that to ourselves, right? Because sometimes we even are the people who can give it to everybody else but ourselves. And it starts, we got to be right within first, right?
Yes.
We have to. I love that so much. I know people are loving the I am the medicine, I am the healing. I love it too. It's please put that back in the atmosphere so others can get some of that medicine too. Dr. Jana, thank you so much for your time. Is there any final thoughts you'd like to leave our audience as they go into the rest of the week?
Take care of yourselves, my loves. Take good care of yourselves. This is, we are in a season, we are in a moment of transformation. And I honestly believe that we are on the precipice of creating a better world, of creating the kind of world that we all hoped that our children could live in. We are standing on the edge of that. And you being the medicine is the key to unlocking that reality. So have so much kindness for yourself. Privilege your rest, follow the nap ministry, and take care of yourself. Because all of this, what it takes to survive what we're going through can absolutely beat you down, and you weren't here to be beat down. So you tell Ray and them, you tell your boss, you tell your cousin, and sometimes you tell your kid and your spouse, hold on, I need a break. I need to go take care of me. That is not selfish. That is self-care, and it's a requirement to survive what we're all going through.
Absolutely. Amen and amen to that. It's okay to center yourselves when you need it, and only you know when you need it, right? You know when you need that time. Take it. We're dropped all of your links inside of the chat so that people can connect with you, hire you, support you. Thank you again for just being the medicine. We appreciate you. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. You know the vibes. Share this out. We post all the replays back on YouTube, Secure the Seat Live. So make sure you go subscribe. If you need some medicine throughout the week, go back and re-listen. It hits different at different times throughout the day. So we want you to make sure you get it in your system. But start with you. Think about how you can go into this week with more inclusive language, how you can be kind to folks, how you can be kind to yourself. And keep securing your seat. We'll see you next Monday at noon. Thanks, everybody.